Hi, I'm Allie Hamilton, and I'm so happy to welcome you to the Come As You Are podcast. Every week, we'll be talking about some aspect of healing, usually around childhood wounds and complicated familial relationships. The topics will always coincide with my personal essay of the week, and this will be a place where we can take a deep dive together. I'm so thrilled you've joined me and delighted for you to always come as you are. Hi there. Hi there. Welcome to our talk. Today, the topic is we need to go back to the beginning. And I was writing about this time in my children's lives when my daughter was 3.5 and my son was 6. And I used to read to them every night for like over an hour. I have always been a really big reader, and I grew up with my head in a book. And when I had the kids, I was like, it was just such a joy to read to them. And so, I read when my son was 6 the entire Harry Potter series to them. My daughter would often fall asleep. She was obviously a lot smaller, but she was into it. And at the end of the series, the first time, both of my kids were devastated. If you haven't read the series, they're very long books. Some of them are longer than others, and some series are like 2 books to one, one piece. But it took a lot of time to get through the entire series, and so it was a lot of investment, and they were just completely enamored, enraptured. By the time we were done the first time around, we had capes, we had wands, we had everything. And so we finished the series and they were both just heartbroken. And so we decided, you know what, we'll just do it again. We'll just start from the beginning and read it all again. And that's what we did. And the second time we did it, each time we would finish a book, we would watch the corresponding film. And they would dress up as Harry and Hermione. And my son had the glasses and we had the whole thing going on. And the year that then eventually my daughter turned 6 and she wanted to read the whole series again. And my son was very happy to do that again. It was kind of like visiting really good old friends, a lot of nostalgia. And this was long before we knew J.K. Rowling was going to turn out to be just an incredibly disappointing human being. And I was writing about that too, just the whole, I didn't get into a tangent about can you appreciate the art and not the artist. I didn't go into all of that, but it just really is such a shocking disappointment, because here's this person who wrote this beautiful series that I used to really feel like just genius level, so intricate and such an epic tale of good versus evil, and about these kids who are sort of outcast because they're special and different. And Harry in particular is neglected, and and then the things that make them different end up being the things that make them so special and the things that make them extraordinary, really. And those are the qualities that end up defeating evil. It's like, couldn't be more, just like a better message. And then this person who creates this beautiful story, it's so sad that she has made it like her life's mission now to attack the transgender community. It really feels like she does not miss an opportunity to do that with, just so much, there's just so much vitriol. And I'm sorry if you're hearing noise in the background. My my dog Rufus, he's got a giant cone on his head this week, and so he is just like when he tries to scratch his ears, he's scratching the cone. Anyway, so that's been a real, and I'm writing about that for a reason, because which I'll get to in a little while. So the year that my son was 6, my daughter was 3.5, and she, as I did every year before Christmas, I'd ask the kids to make a list for Santa. And she had done that. And Christmas Eve morning, she kind of like rolled over and whispered to me that she had asked Santa for a Crookshanks stuffed cat. That's Hermione's cat. And she was sure he was going to bring this for her. Well, this was news to me. She had not put it on her list. So I'm like, what? Wait, what? So I'm instantly trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get her a Crookshanks today? Because, when your kids are 3.5 years old, you really want to try to make like all of their dreams come true and all of their wishes come true and all of that. And so I spent the entire day running around Los Angeles, like trying to, there probably still is, there used to be like a Harry Potter store up in Hollywood. I went all the way up there, and they had just sold the last Crookshanks. The woman there said, there's a store a couple blocks away where they sell like plush stuffed animals. You might find a cat there that looks enough like Crookshanks. You can maybe dye the cat. Crookshanks is like a tabby, pansy faced kind of cat, smushed face kind of cat that's orange. So I went and I found a cat there that was white that looked close enough. I thought, okay, if I can, and then I remembered like Rit dye. I don't know if any of you remember like Rit dye from my childhood. I remember Rit dye. So then I went to like the Michaels and I found like the orange Rit dye, and that is how I found myself like Christmas Eve, coming up at midnight over a boiling pot of water with like a stuffed white cat and orange Rit dye, just trying to like make Crookshanks happen, which I did. But it so happened that was 2012. That was the year that my son turned 6 in November. And I remember this very, very well because that was also the year that Sandy Hook happened. And Sandy Hook happened on December 14th. And so anyone who had school-age children at the time will remember where they were when they heard about Sandy Hook. So all of these things have been on my mind over the last week, as they are every time we have a school shooting. And the fact that I can even say the sentence every time we have a school shooting is the problem. Like the fact that in our country, that's a sentence that any of us can say is devastating and wrong. Like it's not normal. And so that is, that every time we have one of these, I am, it just puts me in such a state of despair. And the day that Sandy Hook happened, my daughter was in preschool, my son was in first grade, and I was doing the laundry, and I was listening to NPR, and I started to hear the details come in, and I was, I'm from the East Coast. I have a lot of friends in Connecticut. I just could not believe what I was hearing. And I sat down on the floor in the laundry room and just started sobbing, because when you have, school age children, my son was the same age as these kids. And you can't help but imagine, you just can't help but put yourself in the shoes of these parents, and what it is to have a 6-year-old. You know what that is, and you know exactly what it is. Like the chubby arms and the like, the absolute trust and faith, in you as mom, or dad, or like just to make everything okay, or um, bath time, or the sound of like bare feet running down the hallway, the joy, like they don't really know how to tell a joke yet. So they'll like tell a joke, they'll make a joke up and they'll like yell the punchline, but it's really not funny, or just like, I mean, it's such an, you want to just protect them, you just want to protect them, or they wake up, from having like a bad dream and you can make that better. And the idea that like, you would have to live with that knowledge of knowing that your child's like last few moments were spent just in terror and like you weren't there, my heart just like broke for the kids and the parents and the whole thing. And it breaks every single time. I just do not understand what we are doing. I don't understand. And I've had school age children in this mess, like for the last 18 years. And I really thought, I think as we all did, I mean, so many of us thought after Sandy Hook, okay, like we're gonna, obviously now, like things will change. And no, no, they won't. Because we have a problem here. We have a very, very serious problem here. And, every time this happens, you've got a whole bunch of people who start screaming, it's not the guns, like guns don't kill people, people kill people, it's a mental health problem. Okay, yeah, first of all, yes, it is a mental health problem. But here's the thing, we don't have a higher rate of mental illness in this country than any other developed country in the world. We don't. We have a much higher rate of mass shootings and school shootings in this country. We have the highest than any other developed country in the world. So we don't have any more mental illness, but what we do have is unfettered access to, weapons that kill people. That's what we have. So yes, it's a mental health issue, because clearly if you go into a school with a gun and you kill children, you are in the midst of a mental health crisis, no doubt. But the problem is we need legislation. That's the issue. And people absolutely lose their minds over this Second Amendment, my Second Amendment rights. I have to, again, I've been talking about the Constitution a lot over the last few months, and the Constitution was created to change over time. We've had a lot of amendments that have been revised and repealed. Like women couldn't always vote. Hi, 19th Amendment. Like there's a lot of things that have changed over time in the Constitution, and that is the way that it was formed. It intentionally, the founding fathers had that kind of foresight where they understood, the world is going to keep changing. So we're going to create this document, and we're going to also create a way for the people who come after us to continue to work with this document as the times change and as things we can't even begin to imagine change, like technology. So at the time the Second Amendment was written, and I think a lot of us know this because there have been demonstrations, there have been things written about this, the well-regulated militia, we're talking about muskets that took a full minute to reload. And today, we have these military style, assault weapons that can fire off 83 rounds in a minute. So it's a whole new thing here. And we need whole new legislation to address this new technology. We're not in the same situation that we were in when that amendment was written. Clearly. We have more guns in this country than the total population. And we have laws about car seats. We have laws about the number of inches, that exist between the spokes of a crib, the bars of a crib. We have laws about blinds, the strings that come down from the blinds to protect children. To protect children. We have all kinds of like guards, like on, lighters and there are all kinds of laws about things, but there's no law about like having a gun in your house that isn't put away properly if your child gets a hold of it and accidentally shoots someone else or themselves. Nothing happens to the gun owner. Why not? Why are there laws about like the cribs, the car seats, the blinds, all these things to protect children, but not like guns in the house? I mean, this is where we are. We need to be rethinking what we are doing here and changing with the times. For example, just to give a couple things, like right now, background checks, which most people want, universal background checks, we don't even have, we can't even get that at the federal level. Background checks vary from state to state. They're not federal. And you can also transfer guns across state lines legally if the guns in question are personal, if they're personal guns. Like, so private gun sales are not regulated. You don't even have to have criminal background checks if you're talking about private gun sales. This is not working. There are loopholes. There are so many things that we need to be reworking. We need to be having a conversation, because what we're doing clearly, very clearly, is not working. It's not protecting our children. It's not protecting citizens. It's not even protecting the police, or, it's not protecting anyone. This is not working. We did have a federal assault weapons ban, and it expired in 2004. And there were like 19, I think, semi-automatic weapons that were banned. And that worked really well. There were I think there were 19 weapons that were under that ban. And while that ban was in effect, mass shootings as a result of those 19 weapons went down to 66%. So that was working, and it would not solve the entire problem. Like, it wouldn't have helped in the shooting that just happened in Minneapolis at Annunciation, church and Catholic school, but it would certainly help. And that would be a good first step, is just to get that ban back on the books. We need to be just starting over here and legislating. We have licenses to drive, right? You have to have a license. Like, we should be having this conversation. I don't have all the answers, but we should be having a conversation about, if you are going to have, I know people, I am at the point, because I have had it, okay? I've had it with all of it, with the school shootings, with the mass shootings, with children at home getting their hands on guns, accidentally killing a sibling, or a friend who's on a play date. Like, I would love to see all the guns go away. I'm just telling you, I'm not a gun person. It's for me, just get rid of them all. But that's never going to happen in this country. Like, there are already, like I said, more guns than people in the entire population here. We have more guns than we do people. So that's not going to happen. It's just, do I think it should happen? Yeah, I don't think private citizens should. I don't think we need guns. But you know what? If you are someone who hunts, or you have a handgun for your personal protection, and you are of sound mind, then I think the very least you ought to be willing to do is prove it. Like, prove it regularly. Once a year, you go take a test, or you go meet with a psychologist once a year to renew your license. Whatever it is, you have a weapon that can kill people. You have a weapon that can kill yourself or someone else. Yeah, I think absolutely you go somewhere once a year and you have a session with someone who assesses your mental health. And if you don't pass that year, then, your gun is taken for that year. I don't know. We can figure this out. I have faith in us. We can figure it out. And maybe you try to renew your license the next year. But what we are doing is not working, full stop. And the people who say, that violates my rights, and you start regulating and that leads to like, then they're going to be abolished. No, they're not. No, they're not. Like, we regulate all kinds of things. Like I said, like cars, or you can't drink and drive. There's a lot of things that you're not allowed to do because they put other people's lives in jeopardy. And so you can't have military style assault weapons in your basement. Sorry. Like, no, you can't do that. You can play video games if that's how you get off. If you like to play like you're a big tough guy, but your right to do that does not outweigh every child's right in this country to feel safe, and every person's right to be safe. Your right to do whatever it is you're doing, you want to feel, whatever that is, oh, I've got my big assault weapon. Like, no, sorry. What's the countries that have sane gun control legislation have more freedom than we do, because people know they can go to a movie theater, or they can go to a grocery store, or their kids can go to school and they're going to be okay. They are more free than we are here. We don't have that freedom anymore. I have to say to my son, if you're driving and someone cuts you off, just let it go, because you don't know who has a gun like on the seat next to them in the car. People are nuts here. A moment of road rage can take your life. It's insanity here. So it's not working, and we do need to rethink it, and we do need to revise the Second Amendment, and that. There were people who were talking about this week the reason that I was starting to talk about like Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling and all of it is because there were people who were talking about the shooter in Minneapolis and trying to make this an issue about transgender people. Let me try to help here real quick, okay? We have had 420 school shootings since Columbine, roughly 420 school shootings. 0.1% of them have been at the hands of people who identified as transgender. 0.1%. This is not a problem of transgender people. And, it's always the people who want to say, don't politicize this. Today's not the day to talk about it. Those are the people who prevent sane gun control legislation. And I know people don't want to make it political, but I'm going to tell you something. And, if you're Republican, you're not going to like it. It is the Republican Party that is, by and large, time and time again, blocking sane gun control legislation. It is. This is factual, very easy to check. It doesn't mean there are Democrats that take money from the gun lobby as well. Absolutely. But Republicans take a lot more. They take a lot more money from the gun lobby than Democrats. And again, I've linked things. You can go and fact check me, because these are facts. The Republican Party is in the pocket of the gun lobby. And the Speaker of the House, I linked that to you. Mike Johnson, he loves guns, and he loves the gun lobby, and he loves money, and he loves it more than children. And, I heard from people leading up to the election, women who were saying, I'm voting Republican because abortion is murder. Okay, so I'm just going to say, like, if that's you, if that's you, and I want to talk to you like mother to mother for a minute here. First of all, like, just so you know, I'm going to say this once, and you can go fact check this as well. States with abortion bans, infant and maternal mortality rates go up in states with abortion bans. They go up. So if you voted Republican because you think abortion is murder, more babies die because of the way you voted, not fewer, more. B, your party is blocking sane gun control legislation and children are dying, and prayers are not enough. Prayers are not enough. Thoughts and prayers are not enough. Prayers without works, not enough. Okay? Prayers without good works, not enough. You need to put action behind your prayers. John Lewis, right? He, incredible human being, civil rights activist, politician. He used to quote this African proverb, when you pray, move your feet. Same thing. Prayer without works, no good. You've got to move your feet, take some action. So if you are not okay with children being shot down at school or in churches, you need to be calling your Congress people and your senators. And I linked that to fivecalls.org. If you don't know who they are, you don't have their phone numbers, just go ahead and use fivecalls.org and you put in your zip code. It'll pop right up with your senators, with your representatives and their phone numbers, and it'll even give you a script. But please call, because if that's how you voted, if you voted because you don't want, children dying, please call now, because what's happened, and if you think it's a mental health issue, if that's your thing, if you're like, it's not guns, it's mental health, okay, well, this administration that you voted for, if that's what you think, they just literally now, they've taken $1 billion away from mental health support for people across the country through SAM, HSA, and also substance abuse, and they got rid of the suicide hotline for LGBTQ youth that was serving 1.2 million people, gone, and also just defunded a Biden-era gun violence bill, $1 billion that was going to go to schools has been going to schools. They just took it away. They said no more funding for this so that schools could hire psychologists and mental health experts and have them there on campus, on the grounds of the schools, to be looking out for kids in trouble. So if you think it's a mental health issue, then you need to be speaking to the people you voted for and ask them why they are defunding mental health support for people. If that's what if that's what you want to say, it's not guns, it's mental health, then why is your administration that you voted for defunding mental health support? Director of the HS, Robert Kennedy Jr., deciding, nope, we're not doing that. And the reason that they gave is it doesn't align with this administration's ideas. So if you're not okay with that and you don't want to see children being shot at school, please make those phone calls. That's the very least you can do. If you mean what you say and you don't want to see that, then you please get on the phone. Because really, I'm at this point, I'm begging if nothing else, the mothers to get involved now. Please speak up. It's enough. It's more than enough. It was enough 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's too much. We got to stop this now. Please, some sanity here. Anyway, that's where I'm at. We are not this is not a healthy society if we are going to value guns more than children, friends. We got to be able to agree on some basic stuff here. And I mean, how many more of these events are we going to allow, to happen? Our children are watching this, by the way. It's not like they don't, they know. I've had both of my kids text me during lockdowns, scared. Text me during lockdowns. We're banning cell phones. We're banning books. We're not banning military-style assault weapons for civilians, for just dudes. This is not normal. Both of my kids have texted me. All of our children have had active shooter drills. That's 5-year-olds are having active shooter drills. This is not a normal way to live. Our children do not need to be dying this way. We do not need to be living this way. It is not normal to drop your kid off at school and pray that they're going to be okay. It is not normal to get a text from your child, Mom, there's a lockdown, I'm scared. You know, Mom, can you just like come stand outside school? Like, there's a SWAT team here. I don't know what's going on. Like, that's not okay. It the kids know, like, we're not taking care of them. They get it. They're aware of that. And then we don't do anything, nothing changes, and they're sent back to school the next day. And, anyone who's going to turn around and say, well, you could homeschool, not everyone can homeschool. That's a very privileged, ignorant thing to say because some people have to work to take care of their children. A lot of kids want desperately to go to school. They should be able to go to school. Our tax dollars are paying for school. That's not a normal response, okay? And it's also not fair for a whole lot of people who need to be working and cannot afford to do that. We need to get it together here. We need to get it together and at the very least, take care of our children. That should be something that we all easily agree upon. So, I'm easy to find if you want to have a conversation, you know where to find me. I'm sending you a lot of love. I want us to tell our children a better story than this. I want us to tell ourselves a better story than this. And what I mean by that is I want us to make a better world than this. I want us to go back to the beginning and do it again and do it better. This is not it. This is not it. I'll see you soon. Sending you love.